Hey everyone, welcome back to Titans Talk, the series dedicated to DC Universe's Titans. Today we are talking about season number 2, episode number 4, titled Aqualad. Now this episode we see the introduction of Aqualad. It's actually a flashback to 5 years previous to what we are currently experiencing with Titans 2.0, with the OG Titans including Aqualad played by Drew Van Aker, and it's essentially our sort of introduction and lead up to the big event that caused the Titans to break up in the first place. Over the course of the past 3 episodes, they've actually been pretty awesome so far. I've actually liked them a lot. I felt like Titan was going on the right track, and unfortunately that streak has ended with episode number 4. I feel like this episode just completely hit a wall compared to the momentum that we were building up over the past 3 episodes, and it just sort of stalled out, and it felt like a throwback to like the original sort of CW series, where there's just a lot of teen drama, a lot of like decision making that's sort of over dramatic, a lot of different things that just don't really lead up anywhere, a lot of things that don't have a payoff, or a lot of the fights are very chaotic and clunky. It just feels like it's not a very cohesive series or show at this point. It feels like they completely disregard everything just to kind of go back 5 years ago to sort of build up. This wasn't really necessary of an episode, but I guess in the long run it will make sense as to why Deathstroke is back and like that sort of feeling of dread that he is back. But even Deathstroke kind of falls flat in this episode, which is really disappointing. Now going back to the clunky and awkward fighting in this episode, the past few episodes have actually had some pretty good fights, especially with Gar, Jason Todd, Raven in the training room, especially also Dick and Rose had a good fight in the training room as well in the Titans Tower. Now in this episode, they completely felt like it was a throwback and just disregarded all of those fights and that really good stunt choreography that they had in the previous episodes, and just felt very clunky. There's only very few fights. There's really only 2. One fight with Dr. Light, which we get the throwback as to how they sort of capture him, or at least interact with him in one way or another. Their original encounter with him is what I probably should say, which is really, again, flat. Dr. Light, super uninteresting character at this point in the series, or even at all in this series. I feel like they could have picked any other villain to sort of help Deathstroke, and it would have made a lot more of an interesting story. But Dr. Light has cool powers, it just falls flat in this series. But they do have an encounter with him, they do have a fight with him. I wouldn't even call it a fight with Dr. Light. It's more of a chase that leads to nowhere. But the big thing that really happens in that is how they sort of take him down at one point. The crew does work together. The Titans do work together in order to bring him down, but it just doesn't make sense in live action. If this was something animated, it would flow very nicely. But because it's live action, it's a little bit more clunky. You have to obviously worry about the safety of the actors and the stunt coordinators and stunt people doing these actions, so you have to take it a little bit easier, and it just feels like they're taking it easy a lot of the times. The other fight that they have earlier in the episode is essentially the Titans fighting 3 thugs and having to stop a car jacking, I guess is what they would call it. But the fact that they have a whole scene to set this up where they actually suit up and everything, and it takes 5 Titans to take down 2 or 3 thugs, 2 of the Titans of which have superpowers, one being Donna Troy's Wonder Girl, the other one being Aqualad, having obviously these water abilities, and they sort of are on the sideline and just sort of let Robin, Hawk, and Dove do most of the work, which really didn't make sense, because why does the whole team have to take down these 3 thugs? That kind of just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And it was really just a lot of lead up to kind of nowhere. But the overall arc of the episode is leading somewhere, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And before I get to that information, I actually want to take a step back and talk about a lot of the problems that I had with this episode. I actually forgot that Dawn and Dick were a thing for quite some time. They rarely ever reference it, and I feel like it would have made a lot more sense if they had a mutual crush with one another, but never got together. That way the whole Dick and Hank dynamic would have made a lot more sense, rather than Dawn just flip-flopping back and forth between the two. But a relationship that I did find actually really interesting was the relationship between Aqualad and Donna Troy, where they are sort of having this sexual sort of discomfort with each other. Like, they really want to be together, but they also can't be together for unknown reasons. that really escaped me. But something that I liked about their relationship is they actually did come up as kids very much together. There's this reference in a story about a clownfish that Donna Troy was looking for in the waters, and Aqualad kind of made it come because it only stays in tropical waters. Super cool story that I thought built those characters a lot, and I feel like that sort of moment was the best character building moment of the entire episode. Everything else was just sort of falling flat left and right, but Aqualad was actually a really cool character for the most part. Had he used his powers a little bit more, I would have liked that, but the fact that they sort of lead into him eventually being killed by Deathstroke in this episode, which is sort of, again, gets the ball rolling for the Titans to go after Deathstroke, which eventually leads to them breaking up. I mean, I feel like we could have spent a little bit more time with him, but because obviously it's a flashback, we can't spend too long. Maybe we'll get some more flashback time with Donna Troy later, not 100% sure, but hopefully they can kind of incorporate him a little bit more, as he did actually bring a lot of charisma and life to a character that really isn't there and hasn't been there for the entire time. So having that sort of character come back, I think would definitely be a big boost to this show. But one of the biggest problems that I had with this episode was the Deathstroke storyline. Not that everything was wrong with it, it just felt like it was a little bit off for some reason. I feel like because Slade Wilson was essentially just a glorified sniper in this episode, there was one time where he used his sword, but he's not presented as this badass tank machine that can basically kill anyone by any means necessary. He just has really good aim. They essentially make him Deadshot, which obviously isn't even the same character. So the fact that they tried to make him sort of just a really good sniper and only use his sword once, super disappointing, because he is such a skilled tactician and assassin. They really need to incorporate that a little bit more. Not to mention they do a lot of awkward things with him, such as him killing to very snappy sort of jazz music, which I felt, again, was very off character. And going back to when he's actually killing Aqualad, or does kill Aqualad, again, he snipes him, but I think his main target was Donna Troy, I think, because I don't really think they explained in the episode who his target was. It could have been the lady that Donna Troy was with. It just happened to be that Aqualad was there, and he ended up taking the bullet for Donna Troy. Again, sort of building their relationship, or at least kind of letting it go somewhere, and a reason for her to go after Deathstroke and the Titans to go after Deathstroke, which they do decide to do at the end of the episode. But they also have this weird moment with his storyline where he visits a house of a boy that's mute. That's at the very beginning of the episode, and then it kind of disappears, and then it doesn't really show up again until the end of the episode when we find out that mute kid actually ends up being Jericho Wilson, which is Slade Wilson's son. Dick has an interaction with him at a record store. Obviously, he's like marked him or is going to do something with him, because after they find out about Slade Wilson, they've tracked down Jericho, and they're going to essentially kidnap him, it seems like, and sort of use him as leverage to stop Deathstroke, or at least lure him to some place where they can sort of try and take him down in one way or another for vengeance for Aqualad. Overall, this episode just felt very clunky, just not very well put together. Again, it felt like an early CW episode or show with all the teen drama and just like the awkward interactions, the awkward sort of lead up and sexual tension, different things going on that just didn't really feel like the Titans that we've known the past 3 episodes. Maybe it's because they did do that 5 years flashback that we're into right now, that obviously they were a different team then. They obviously didn't have the encounter with Deathstroke. They weren't so dark and brooding. Maybe that's what they were kind of going for. But I feel like the way that this episode was assembled, again, very reminiscent of those early CW shows that just feel very clunky and like made for TV. And obviously this is a show made for TV, but it's like a streaming service. So you expect it to be a little bit more effort put into it, rather than going back to that early 2000s, late 90s sort of sitcom type of style. But overall, this was definitely the weakest episode so far. I'm hoping they'll get back on track with the next episode now that we're going to have the Titans sort of really go up against Deathstroke. Hopefully we get to see more of his capabilities as well as the team's capabilities and what really drives them, what sort of shock value Deathstroke really gives them to be able to break up and be where they are in the present. So I'm really looking forward to the next episode. This sort of lead-up episode I don't think was necessary, but it kind of helped bring a little bit of context as to what's to come especially later down the line in the season. But other than that, those are really my thoughts on episode number 4, titled Aqualad. If you have seen the episode, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know if you're excited to see if Deathstroke is going to go forward or exactly where this is going to be going. I mean, obviously we know this isn't going to end well for the Titans because they break up and now we're in Titans 2.0. And it's obviously that storyline is pretty obvious at this point. But I feel like maybe if they can pick it back up somehow, this episode will just be the weak link of the season and we can just carry on with the momentum of the previous few episodes. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But other than that, those are my thoughts on episode number 4, titled Aqualad. Make sure you guys are subscribed so that you will be able to tune in next week to the next episode of Titans Talk. We're going to be talking about episode number 5. I don't know the title of that video yet, but I'm really excited to see what happens in it. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.